Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of us talking about The Last of Us. Woo!
Yay.
So today we have somebody here with us, somebody who, if you've seen in in other videos, he's here today for another episode together with us, me, Nina, and Enzo. So, introduce yourself.
You, Nina, and Enzo?
Me, Nina.
You're Nina.
I'm Nina.
Yes.
Me, Nina, Enzo. English is not my just kidding. But say hi, Seb. Well, English is not.
Hi, I'm Seb, not Nina. She's
I'm not Nina. I'm
this
Nina.
Is Enzo.
I'm not Nina either.
Oh my
We're all
gosh.
Nina,
This should be
actually.
just not.
This isn't
all
Geeks
learning.
and Degenerates, it's a Nina collective.
Yeah, tama.
Yes.
The Nina collective. Just different ways of saying Nina.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So with that being the case, I guess we can just get started. First, I have to ask them, Seb, since this is your first episode with us. What are your thoughts so far with everything we've seen in the last 3 episodes?
Give all these people who are behind this show and in this show an Emmy. Every single one of them.
I agree. I agree. The moment I saw in episode 2 the set and everything, beyond just the acting, I said they should win for production if it's
I knew that Last of Us was one of those video games where, like, if they made it a show or a movie, hopefully a show, luckily it is a show, that it's gonna be hard to mess up. Like, if you decide to make Last of Us a movie or show, you have such good material to work with that even if you did nothing original with it, it would probably still turn out like Oscar worthy or Emmy worthy. But this show has only so far enhanced on the source material. They have not messed it up the way we saw with things like Resident Evil and Mario.
Funnily enough, yeah, you're right there.
Yeah.
So I was like, the random message of Mario, I was like, is it even out yet at this point? But I mean, fair, honestly.
Oh no, I mean like the old Mario from
the old
oh,
Mario, was like
yeah.
Mario, like the 2023 one, but
No, not
with
yet.
Chris Pratt. Oh my god!
I'm not gonna judge the Pratt one yet because it's not out. Like maybe it'll turn out okay, but like we're not talking about Chris Pratt from Parks and Recreation. We're talking about Chris Pratt from the MCU.
Yeah,
so those are two different people, but we'll never know. Maybe he's still at that level of being Andy Dwyer, I think is his name.
Yeah.
I didn't watch it. Yeah,
Speaking of Parks and Rec, pretty appropriate to speak about Parks and Rec on this episode.
Something, Oh wait, huh?
Yeah, Nick Offerman.
Nick Offerman.
Oh yes, I was like,
Yeah.
I was thinking like, wait, oh yeah, you're right. He's in that. Because there's something about comedy actors going into like intensely serious roles that sometimes I forget like the persona is not there because when it's kind of the thing when you're in comedy, you stay in comedy, and it's kind of hard to branch out after a certain point. But then like with the rise of like Steve Carell and like not the rise as if I know, but like his consistent career in serious movies, and then Nick Offerman doing this. Offerman.
Offerman.
I don't know where I'm getting that from. I just Offerman. Okay. Like Nick Offerman and like, who else is there? Zoolander?
Ben Stiller.
Ben Stiller? Yeah, Ben Stiller. I'm pretty sure he did some Adam Sandler. Bill Hader.
Yeah.
Bill Hader. I mentioned him in the last review we did, I'm pretty sure. But anyway, regardless, like, so with that being the case, like, crazy to think like, oh yeah, he's the same person who did that. And it's just weird because it's kind of like, I feel like his like actor persona and like they did typecast him, but they did his character in such a way that like, it enhanced on that character. Because like Nick Offerman in Parks and Rec is like really,
He's hilarious though.
He is hilarious, but he plays like the deadpan comedy to everyone else's kind of like bubbly out there comedy. And then like I just feel like they got him and then just gave him really good writing, and then he just acted really fucking well.
Yeah.
Oh shit, have we passed? Wait, I like how I cursed twice, but have we passed
pretty
1
sure.
minute?
It's cool.
I was like, have we missed the 1 minute mark? Probably.
I'm pretty sure we're well past the 1 minute mark.
Yeah. No, with that being the case though, so we saw the trailer and obviously we've talked about Nick Offerman, but seeing him in the trailer, what were you guys' like thoughts going into it? Because like he was probably one of the other kind of headlining actors coming into the show. So what were your guys' like opinions on seeing him there, and knowing he was gonna be Bill because they did release that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just couldn't wait for the exchange between Bill and Ellie when she's like, from the looks of things, you could use less food, and him being like, "You little shit, shut up."
Yeah. Bill in the game has a very funny relationship with Ellie. Actually, one of the few times where like they encounter someone, and sure, it's sad and scary and tense, but Bill is weirdly hilarious in the game. Like, hilarious, but like it's only funny if it's not you. You know,
Yeah.
Bill is, as portrayed here, like a doomsday prepper type. He's overly paranoid. This Bill had a better plan. Like, this version of Bill had a better plan than the one in the game. We were told through articles that Bill would be very much rewritten for the show. Like, he's not going to be the same Bill. I was expecting that same Ellie exchange. I was expecting, the paranoia, which, the paranoia, we definitely got some of that. But I did not expect this episode to go the way it did.
Same here.
Yeah, me neither. I didn't even read the articles because I was just like, prior to the show at all, I refused to see anything past the trailer. If only because the trailer got a lot of really good, like, people were really raving on it. So I was like, oh, like raving about it. So I was like, hey, I can give that a shot. So I watched it. And that was the only thing I allowed myself or even wanted to watch. So I was kind of like, all right. So, and then I was like, Nick Offerman's in here. And then I remembered that. And I was like, oh God. Because I didn't see any of the, what do you call that? Any of the promotional material even. Unless Enzo shared it. And even when it was like Pedro Pascal and
I saw one trailer. And I was like, oh shit, it looks good. Then I saw the city. Then like that building.
Yeah,
like, for lack of a better term, this building. And I was like, they did that building?
Like, for one of my listeners, Seb is putting up his arms for
like
he's putting up his arms to talk about the tilted building for our audio listeners. But yeah,
the events of the show actually function a little faster than the game.
Yeah.
Like, this is like, if I was playing the game, this would take me maybe, if I was playing for like 1 or 2 hours a day, would probably have taken me 3 to 5 days to get to. So things are moving fast, but it's just so well written that I'm not complaining.
I think you said like what people might be used to. So I realized like what made this feel different from the game, right? Is because the obvious major difference is that this is a show adaptation, and that like you have a lot more time to spend with these people, right? Because when you walk around, when you're doing these things, rather than everything being quiet and you're playing Joel, doing your sneak or ooga booga things, as I've been told you can also do. You have a lot of moments, like small like dialogue between people, like between the NPCs. So like Ellie while you're doing things, or like Joel when you're walking around and you're having these and you have a lot more time. And I mean, you're right. But it's not like a bad thing to note that it does feel faster. But I think that's just kind of a thing that I was worried that people were gonna say that like it's too fast, and I'm like, I don't know, because we don't want to watch like Joel run around and sneaking all around all the time with his old face apparently. But it's a valid comment though, absolutely.
It's moving faster, but I'm not saying that like it's moving too fast. I think they bypassed things that were very gameplay specific. Like there are a lot of scenes that revolve around like the combat areas of the game that they actually bypass. Like in episode 2, the testing happened very differently.
Yeah.
But I love what happened with tests. Like, to me, this is a lot better than what they did. And having, honestly, them going against less people, like keeping that a bit more tasteful than they did, was so much better than what ended up happening in the show, in the game, because in the game, you have to deal with the government, like, quite a bit. And I think them feeling like dealing with the infected, especially with the added context of what we get, like we never actually know in the game where this all started. Not specifically, we have a vague idea, So with the added context of how all of this happened, the rewrites were good and appropriate for the show, and like so far, I don't know if this will continue on after episode 3, but it will definitely give people a reason to check out both Last of Us, the game, and the show, because they're two very different and equally good experiences.
Yeah, I like that idea because like I've been told as well, like somebody I was watching who played the games. She had said, "Oh, like this is a really good elaborate ruse to get me to pay for the remastered for PC now." And I was like, you know what, very fair. But
Yeah.
I think now that we've kind of talked about, because obviously it was really important to see where Seb kind of stood with the show so far. I think now we can get into the episode itself, right? And I mean, I'm not gonna go like to it like as seen perceived, but I think we can talk about. Speaking of changes, I think we should talk about the major change itself, and that like, we even get to see Bill and Frank fully like have a relationship, and I think that sets a different precedent from what we've seen so far. Because so far we've had 2 episodes of one in the beginning getting context of what was happening prior. So we get the pivotal, very important Sarah scene, and then the second one we kind of see the part where in Jakarta where we get the outbreak, and then Joel and Ellie. But now we actually get to see like a complete full episode of a flashback. Like we don't even get like if anything, the precedent for the beginning that introduces that is Joel and Ellie, which is kind of interesting. They switched that formula. So I have to ask now, like, how did you guys feel about this episode? I know Enzo because he messaged it to me. He was like, "I'm hurt." He said, "Nina, I'm hurt. I finished the episode." But how about you, Seb?
I mean, are we gonna have Enzo go at it first, or are we gonna
Actually, I think Tell us about it, Enzo.
Yeah, I like how it starts off with seeing Joel and Ellie build that relationship a bit more, and seeing Ellie's somewhat violent tendencies, and like it's interesting because we know season 2 is coming, how that's gonna play up in the future. But like I do like how slowly Joel is like opening up to Ellie, and he even cares about Ellie when he's like, "Please don't look at the mass grave. I'm telling you not to. I'm asking you not to. Please." But yeah, it's a dark thing too, seeing like the skeletons and the one baby skeleton of like people just executed to show like to emphasize like, yes, this is a dark world, and with Bill and Frank, like it is a dark world with moments that they have that don't last forever, but they are precious. And I do like the changes between for Bill, because I sent this to Nina. I said the premise of this episode in the game was Joel needs a car, he needs to go fast, and the writers were like, let's
He needs to go fast.
We gotta see my brother gotta go fast, need a car, come on, Bill.
and then the writers were like, what if we just make people cry for like an hour?
I know. I came into this episode because Enzo, he didn't spoil it per se, but he gave a note saying like, "Oh, I think I know episode 3 is about Bill," and I was like, "Oh, okay." So I came into it like early morning. I was like, "Hey, let's watch." So I was watching it who played the game, and then like I was like all throughout, and I went, "Can we go back to the shrooms? Like, can we go back to the murder? I'll take that. It just stop making it hurt." Stop. And that's how it felt like the whole time. I woke up like I literally watched it like 10 minutes after release, because it releases 9 a.m. here, right? And I was like, yeah, let's go. I was like, fuck, I want to leave. I literally told myself, like, is it worth stopping right now to take a break? And I said, no, I'll finish it because it won't hit as hard if I did watch it all the way through. And then my friends were like, let's watch it later. And I went, I don't know if I'm emotionally prepared for that again. Not again. An hour of absolute misery, but joyfulness, no. Literally not emotionally prepared. But how about you, Seb? You looked really like you had something to say about that.
The thing about this is like, all right, you know, Last of Us is a sad franchise. When you know that this is actually the happier ending for Bill.
I thought that too. I was like, I think it's telling what the show is gonna do, considering this is probably the best case scenario somebody gets out of the show. Like somebody that's not, Joel and Ellie but
No, because like what happened with Bill and Frank is really tragic and really like nihilistic.
Yeah.
Like things do not turn out good for Bill, but and this is also the first time they're actually pretty blatant with, you know, Bill being gay.
Yeah.
Back then you could tell. Like even back then when they first released Last of Us and it was still, you know, just a game to people, a goated game, but still game. When you meet Bill and then you get to find out about Frank, he does talk about Frank like they were together.
Yeah.
And you know, you could say they're like trying to like block out the whole he's gay, but we're just kind of wink nudging to it. But you know, so far every romantic relationship here, almost every, there's one that is blatant. Every romantic relationship here was kind of just wink nudge nudge, because we never know Tess and Joel's deal.
Yeah, and we still don't in the show, right? Like people are still questioning. Like they asked me, like, are they a thing? And I was like, oh no, don't you hug your homies in bed and cuddle goodnight? they were like, why is she holding him like that? I was like, you don't do that for your homies?
Yeah. It's like I've spooned with my bros. Come on.
Yeah, but sorry, continue.
Yeah. Like, you never have moments like that in the game with Tess and Joel. And, you know, in the game, does it matter if I do game spoilers?
I don't think it does, no. I think we've said our own spoilers.
Alright,
anyway.
Frank is fucking dead in the game already.
Yeah.
Like, you never get to see Frank. You just get to see Bill and the results of, you know, I guess the post-breakup thing. So, despite that, like, Bill is not presented as the most sympathetic character. And that's sad. I feel like we could have had... There should be a lot of reason for us to like Bill, or to at least sympathize with Bill. Because everyone's going through it here. And we never get to see why Bill is the way he is in a time where it's probably the worst in humanity. I wish they could have done more with making us feel like there's a reason to like Bill. Because I feel like even after we do everything and read the letter from Frank, you know, like, Bill just comes off as an ass, but you're like, thanks for the help. You're still an ass. I'm sorry that happened to you, but you're still an ass. Like, Bill is...
Take a shot every time Seb says you're an ass.
I mean, I'm gonna stop here. But Bill in the show is presented so differently, and that is 100% carried by Nick Offerman's delivery of the character overall, and I'm not just talking dialogue, because the script is great, but Nick Offerman, his movements, his body language is so...
Yeah, the way he's like really stiff. Oh my gosh. We kept pointing that out. We were like, he's so stiff. What the heck?
He's stiff, but also delicate.
Yeah.
Like, you feel this rigidity within Nick. I mean, within Bill, the entire time, and then, you know, you get to the part where he plays piano for Frank, and his hands just feel like... I'm a musician, so I know your hands are supposed to be supple, but there's just something about when he gets on that piano, then you just see how soft his fingers feel against the keys. Like, for some reason, you're not playing, but you could feel that. You could feel that he so desperately wanted to let his guard down for this one moment.
Yeah.
Like, and you never get to see that in the game, and it was so beautiful to see him do that. And, like, I was watching it with Ina, and she was like, oh my god. She was like, she'd never played the game, so she had no idea what was happening. She was just like, oh my god, boy love. And then they kiss. And then she's just like, I was kidding, but oh my god.
You know, I said myself, I was like, we are in 2022. Like, this is probably writing at least 2021, 2022. I was like, at this point, this is an HBO show. I have a feeling they need to be explicit about this if they want this to matter. And then they did, and I was right. And I was like, and then it went very explicit. And I went, that's very explicit. That's very HBO of you. But what did you think, Enzo, also regarding that?
I told Nina like a day before. I was like, I think people who are watching the show, who who are like Bill before Frank, who are like, yeah, this is definitely me. I'm a doomsday prepper. I can relate to Bill. And then they're like, oh,
I think the government are what again? Sorry.
Nazis.
I think, yeah.
Yeah.
The government or Nazis kind of vibe. All the alt-right people are like, I'm him, and then gay, and it's like,
I was about to say like, how many people in 2021 are still going like, I want to be a doomsday prepper. I want an arsenal of guns to be ready. You know, like, not a lot of people are saying that shit out loud anymore, man.
thank God they aren't. I hope
God.
not.
Like if they are, they're just like.
All I could think about was like, I was like, oh God, is he a racist? That's what I thought. Oh God, is he a racist?
Actually, we'd never know.
We never know.
Well, actually,
God, I hope not.
No, Pedro's a minority.
Yeah, Pedro's a minority, but
Okay,
I said he was, because he's I don't know specifically his
He's an
specific
alt-right dude. He's like don't tread on me, motherfucker.
Yeah,
Which could lead to him being at least a little bit racist. But like, you know, when everyone is literally trouble, like,
you know, at this point, like, does it really matter?
like the racial barriers kind of break down when everyone's a man-eating zombie. So
True.
I
feel like I missed both. Anyway, whatever. Whatever, it's fine. Anyway, sorry, Enzo.
I do love the scene where Frank's taking a shower and then Bill comes in. He's like, I don't know what to do with myself. There's a very attractive man taking a shower, and I was like, do you want clothes or food or what do I do? I don't know what to do. I'll just stay here. Do I go out? Okay, I'll stay here.
he also didn't know whether to respond to him with a sense of enthusiasm or to like keep this deadpan persona going. Like when he was like, I left you some clothes. He's like, what? And he's like, I left you some clothes. Okay, but can I have 5 more minutes? Sure. Sure. Did I say that a little too enthusiastically? Was that
Yeah,
weird?
yeah. It's like the questioning every moment, like every word that comes out of your mouth, like a Sims character. Like, was it the green or the red that came out of that social interaction?
No, but he's so multi-dimensional. Like,
He really is.
In the game, you don't get to see Bill this multi-dimensional, and it's like I said, it's a mix of the body language. It's a mix of the facial expressions. Everything he does, like, bleeds into who Bill is. Like a person who, you know, in the previous life, you know, pre-pandemic life.
Pandemic. Oh my God.
Because this is a pandemic.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, he was probably a lot harder than this. But you know, the world has fallen to shit, and I guess, you know, everyone's a little desperate for something. Like, everyone's a little desperate to be like, let me believe in something, let me have a place where I could let my guard down. And, you know, Bill being a person who probably was never able to express this pre-pandemic was kind of, you know, playing fuck it and just be like, well, maybe this is my chance at that. And, you know, he's a surprisingly good cook.
Yeah. I feel like 4 years of cooking for yourself does that to you. You know, he's not an Arby's.
Yeah.
He's not an Arby's.
I know, but he looks rich. Like, he's still living in technically his house. He has enough money to buy an arsenal of guns and prepare a doomsday bunker in his house. So, like, he knows what the high life is, but he's also never been himself.
Yeah.
So I think it's really beautiful how Frank was able to get him vulnerable. But as people who are watching a doomsday show where people can be just as dangerous as the dead, like, even Ina was skeptical. It's like, oh, please don't have him take advantage of him. Like, please don't have this guy kill him.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And I was like, I'm gonna let you know now that does not happen. I'm just hoping it doesn't end the way.
Yeah, it doesn't end the way we think it does, right?
Dude, in the game, it's so mean. Like,
yeah, he was like, I never liked you, I hated you, right? Like,
he said something to the point of like, I'm gonna die here, but just so you know, if this is my end, I'd rather it be this than having to spend one more moment with you.
Oof, that's
Which
terrible.
is so rough for anybody.
Yeah, regardless of whether or not, it was you're an apocalypse,
Yeah, whether or not Bill's an ass, that's rough. Like, that's super rough to hear from anybody, especially someone who you were like, partners with. I don't know if they ever got to the "I love you" stage, but like, hearing that from a partner is just really fucking mean.
Yeah, and I think it also matters that Bill at the time, because when all the shit goes down, it was 2003, right? So it wasn't even at a time where like being gay, like to a certain extent, yes, the knowledge of being gay was out there. There were a lot of things, but the difference between like 2003 to 2023 is significant, and obviously 2023.
I mean, like the social advancement of how people see things like homosexuality, like. Remember what 2003 was like.
I mean, there were a lot of homophobic jokes still being said on TV.
No, not just homophobia, dude. Like, this was the height of xenophobia against
true.
Arabs, because 01 just happened, 9/11 just happened. And, like, things like American Idiot came out, which, if you listen to Green Day's album, it is pro-gay, but presented in the most Dave Chappelle manner.
Yeah.
Where it was, like, socially irresponsibly presented with a message that was actually beneficial for everybody. But things were very crass in 2003. And the world felt the shit at around this time. So if the world falls to shit around this time, then everyone's still kind of in the 2001 mentality. But, regardless of anyone's stance on shit like gay marriage, like, the people who existed at this time were probably the super crass. They're still having a lot of remains from the late 90s of the mentality towards gay people. Like, the F word for gay people was probably still something in a lot of people's vocabulary. Like, these doomsday preppers were probably the type of person to beat an Arab up in the street. Like, that's how 2003 was like. And for people to still kind of think that way, but also for one of those doomsday preppers to be a closet gay guy, like, these are people bypassing their own times. Like, 2023 was not a time for the internet to, boom, and, this 2023 is not the internet boom. This is not, like, the spike of the Me Too movement or all the police brutality things. We are living in a dystopia in this universe, and I don't think a lot of people have changed their stances on things like that. But because so many people are just dead, I think people have stopped caring.
I mean, it makes sense. What I'm saying though is that he probably grew up at a time where it wasn't so open for him, and much less, especially in representative wise. Yeah. I mean, how often can we count? Like, I can count on like one. Like, I have like, one like very obvious, like, this is the first time I've seen what is essentially a very explicit gay relationship between two very masculine looking men, because we're gonna admit it, right? They both look very masculine, most especially Bill, Nick Offerman's character, right? Like, he comes across as the very gruff guy. Yes. And that's what I'm saying is, like, it's the kind of vibe that you get where it's like someone had to be overly compensating their masculinity, doomsday prepper, all of those things, fall into that issue, and then go back into themselves and be like, but I really am gay. And then now that all the social, what social barriers are there now at this point, if everyone's just a fucking mushroom zombie, right? If everyone's eating shrooms or whatever, or being shrooms themselves. It's
so sad that it took, in this world, it took a literal apocalypse for people to just be like, well, people are people.
Exactly. But I want to also hear what Enzo has to say regarding, like, what were your thoughts in regards to the relationship between, Bill and Frank? Like, were you also initially skeptical? Because I was terrified, because I knew that from the game he died. Obviously, in a different way, but I was like, are they going to do the thing where they give us a little bit of happiness in the show and then take it away and just, like a cat just dropping it off?
I really thought that was going to happen.
Yeah, same here. So when they started arguing, I was like, well, this is it. Bill and Joe are going to discover his skeleton somewhere with a note saying, like, I rather die than be with you. I'm like, fuck, it is it. All right. But then when he's like, that's why I was talking to this lovely lady on the radio. I was like, oh, who's the lady? Oh shit, it's Tess. That's his back. And
Yeah, I was like, is that Tess? Is this how they? Oh, and then I was like, oh. It was nice to see that little pocket of like remembering that this is also the show about Joel and Joel and Ellie. Like, there's Joel.
Yeah.
There's Joel.
No, and it was also the brunch, right? Like,
Yeah, it was the brunch.
I assume it was brunch because they're gay, right? That's our life. That's our life. That's how we do things. That's our culture.
That's our culture. We love brunch.
None of us wake up in the morning. Come on.
And we want an excuse to drink in the morning.
Exactly. So when they had that lunch, I was like, ooh, like Joel and Bill were very similar. Like there was a lot of common ground, and I love that they established the code.
Yeah, that's how you
Yeah.
Do you guys realize the code? I didn't realize this off the bat because I did not think about it because I was crying my eyes out. And I was like, at that point, I was like dead worried about Frank. But apparently, I think about it, a gay man talking about disaster times being in the 80s. AIDS crisis, anybody?
Oh.
Yeah, so I was like, at least that's what I assume it is. I am not completely. Let me Google that in a bit. But anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm pretty sure that was what they were implying. So I was like, all right, cool. Oh my god, That's what I love about the show, right? Is that what we get in the game was really great gameplay, really great story. We saw like the idea of the apocalypse getting elevated beyond just being like, oh my god, zombie outbreak, chainsaw on motorcycles, That's like so much shit. I'm just saying, a different
Scissors on everything.
Scissors on everything. Nails on a bat,
Yes.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like, when was the last time we ever thought about like in my recent memory, The Last of Us was probably the first show or first game where I saw kind of the apocalypse being elevated in a way beyond just like, are you laughing?
Let's elevate the apocalypse.
I know, it sounds really bad.
How do we take the end of the world and make it
sadder? How do we take this? Yeah,
the most grandiose apocalypse?
I love the interaction.
But you get me though. It's like the elements of like what made it a really campy and very outrageous kind of idea, and then just make it so grounded and then really fucking sad. And then I was like,
the worst thing about this version of the apocalypse, especially coming from like, we're the COVID generation now, right?
Yeah.
We're coming from this apocalypse and then watching The Last of Us, and then it's real. Like, this disease in theory is possible.
Yeah, in theory is
because
possible.
cordyceps exist.
Yeah.
They are real. If you guys want to Google that shit, and if you want to make yourself more paranoid, like, it's all over YouTube. You can actually watch how cordyceps work, and they're very fucked.
Oh, did you see that news article this morning saying like some fungi is like evolving because of higher temperatures?
No. But like, it's very possible. It's a grounded possible apocalypse. And you have no idea how paranoid I've been over like mushrooms doing a little too well in this world. Like, who the scariest character to me in like My Hero Academia is? It's that bitch from 1B who makes mushrooms. That's a terrifying woman. So like, I do not have a good like relationships with like mushrooms just mass spawning in places. And it's bad because like The Last of Us gave us a very possible apocalypse. Why couldn't it be like, Train to Busan, where like, the disease just turns you into a fucking sprint goblin that wants to eat people? Like, at least that is a little out of the question. But like, here it's just like, well, cordyceps actually do that. Like, I don't know if you're gonna be able to run, but cordyceps do that. So that's scary.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes it really grounded. Weirdly enough, it's kind of sad to think that it is really grounded, but it's also just kind of like, that's what the show really does. It's create, like, world building wise, it's been really interesting to see. Like,
a lot better than the game too.
Yeah, because I would argue, because the game only had so much time, and like, you had to, it was kind of like, narrative wise, yeah, sure, we can talk about that, but I guess somebody told me that that was what that was the green papers are for in the game, which not a lot of us do.
Oh yeah.
But like it only makes sense that it has to add to the narrative. But and so what were you gonna say?
I'd say like I think the moment I was like I'm really setting up for heartbreak is the strawberry scene when he's like, I wasn't afraid until you showed
when the music
up.
played.
Yeah, I was
when
like,
the music played, I was like, ooh.
It's like, oh, this is gonna hurt really badly then. Okay.
But
Thanks.
it's such a beautiful point where like he takes a bite out of the strawberry, then he does the Raymond Holt thing of hee-heeing.
Can I just say, speaking of Raymond Holt, God bless you brought that up, because I was gonna say it's very interesting that Nick Offerman, this is his second character where he's playing like a fully gay man.
Really?
Think about it. He was the ex of Raymond Holt in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, the doctor with the ducks.
Right.
That's why I was like, this is Nick Offerman's second character as a gay man on screen. Just saying.
I also like that the guy playing Frank is Murray Bartlett, who is the guy from Last Man on Earth. Like, isn't he the guy from Last Man on Earth? Like, this is not the first time he's been, in an apocalyptic situation or like an isolationist situation.
Yeah, but I think what I really appreciated that they changed up truly was to show a very intimate, gay relationship, and it isn't based on the idea of we're gay and we have to be together because the world is against us because homophobes, right? Like, no, at this point it's a story about human connection that just so happens to be gay, and it does have elements of trauma from being gay in the past, but it was never about being gay. They just so happened to be gay, and it was a really, really, and the way they did the intimacy as well. Oftentimes when you see like gay media, right? Like we think about gay media and that like it's very hypersexual. We make about the jokes about Grindr and like hookup culture is always there, but rarely do we ever get to see a very grounded human story. Being shown like through the bolt of like gay men, very intimate, and again I also said this again, very masculine looking men. Off the bat I was like looking, I was like but then I was like in my head I was like, but he played the ex of Raymond Holt, so I guess he can play the gay man. The gay straight man.
I've never seen more tender kisses from two people in a movie or a show than here.
Yeah.
Like those are the kisses that you wish you would have seen like in your childhood in like love story movies or shows. Like it's beautiful. Like the way they physically interact is so beautiful. The way the first time they started like getting to the sexy times, like that was so tender.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying, right? Because how often do we get a non-hypersexualized, intimate gay scene like that? I can't even argue to say it's so sexy, because it was just so. It was. I know it's weird to say. I feel like it's the weirdest term, but like lovemaking or something like that, like something a lot less hypersexual, but just intimate. Incredibly intimate, and it was just like I was like, oh my God, God bless HBO. We've come a long way since.
Since fucking up Game of Thrones.
I know! And you know what? I think it was really, really smart of Neil Druckmann. Like, God, that's what I'm saying, right? Because I lose a lot of hope when we lose out on the original creator, being a part of the project. Even if they don't have to be the director, they don't have to be executive producer or writer, but for them to put their faith in a show, that means a lot to me. And the fact that he was at the helm of the ship of this entire thing. If anything, I made the joke. I said, do you think like he had to add spores because they needed gameplay things, but then he wouldn't have added that. But then we had the testing in episode 2, and that's what he actually wanted in his notes somewhere. He was like, what if they mushroom keys make more zombie like that? I was like, I was just like
about Neil as a guy involved in Last of Us. He directed Last of Us, right?
Yeah.
The game at least.
He's also involved in production as a director.
Oh yeah,
sure, or executive producer.
I'm aware that he's big. He's involved in a big way, which is great. But also, like, you also have to understand the reason Last of Us the game worked is because of Neil.
Yeah,
like there were a lot of scenes, like Sarah's death, that only worked as well as it did because Neil would not stop until he got it right. And he even got to the point of pissing off Troy. Like, for him to be able to risk that, because he's like, no, trust me. Like, I got this. Just listen to me. So it was a great idea for HBO to really get his input in it, and also for HBO to get the guys from Chernobyl.
Yeah. Oh my god, the fact that they got the guys from Chernobyl. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I'm saying is that, like, the fact that there's so much faith being put, I was like, how can I, you know, at this point, of course, we don't know what's going to happen in the next, how many more episodes, Enzo, do we have? 6?
I think
Nine or 8?
There are 9 episodes slated, so we're done with 3 already. Okay, 6.
Yeah, so we're about like 1/3 of the way done. Like, it's just been such a strong start, and so far, God, I hope we don't drop the bag the way we did in Game of Thrones.
Oh,
God, I hope we don't drop the bag. But you know, it's just kind of like, I don't know, seeing what was like somebody who so intimately knew his own world, expanded in a way and adapted so well. Because admittedly, you know, just because you're the creator doesn't mean you're gonna know what it's like to adapt your material properly. Stephen King. I mean, honestly, you know.
I mean,
like,
some of it's been really good. Some of it hasn't been up to par, but some of it's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yes, some of it is really good, but you can't. You know, that's the thing, right? It's a hit or a miss. Adapting is such a delicate balance, and
especially
I was just like,
when it's a movie.
Yeah, especially when it's a movie. The show, I feel, is a lot. Him picking a show was a really good move for whoever decided to continue that. And like, I don't know. I mean, just like, there was just. I mean, okay. I've heard a lot of people say that they preferred this over the games, how it happened in the games.
I do.
I want your guys' opinions on that. Enzo, go. Points at the screen. Points at camera. Enzo, you first.
I do, because as Seb mentioned, it gives more depth to Bill and definitely more depth to Frank, because we haven't, like, by the end of the game, just like, bye Bill, I hope the best for you, you fucking asshole.
So I'm done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Every time someone said goodbye to me after school.
But like, this episode in particular made you care so much. Like, by the time you don't want this, it made you care so much that you wish this wasn't The Last of Us. You're like, can it just be another property, please, where they do end up happy? Because from the strawberries onwards, you're like, something's gonna happen. And when like they're in danger, you're like, is this the end? Is this why are they switching out? Is Frank the cranky one that Joel meets? And then you get to the end and you're like, oh man, it's, as you said, it's painful to watch, but it's so beautifully done that you're like, and by the end I was like, I 100% prefer this ending, no matter how painful it is, over the game, because this gives you closure on Bill and Frank. No matter how much of the waterworks are coming out, you're like, yeah, I prefer this, I really do.
Yeah. How about you, Sub?
Like I've said before, this is so far, like, The Last of Us, like, whatever mistakes Neil might have made making the game, that he was like, I wish I did this differently. This is the first time that I've ever seen, like, content with, like, with source material actually be consistently enhanced.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is a lot better. Like, it's shorter because it feels more streamlined and more focused on enhancing and developing their characters over developing the progression of a game. And you really feel that, especially in this episode. Am I the only one that thinks that there were spores around the time that they were gonna go to the strawberries? Am I the only one?
Because of the dandelion seeds, or I don't know.
No, there were things. There were dust
those
things.
Dandelions. I saw the little.
Yeah, if you watched Last of Us, or I mean, if you've played Last of Us, you know that that's usually what's in the loading screen.
Yeah.
And it's usually fucking sports. So when I saw that, I was like, no.
The game players coming into the show being like, "What's that in the air? That's not normal. If I can see it, that's not good."
Yes. So seeing that, I was like, oh, this is not gonna end well for somebody. I did find it kind of stupid that we got to see like Bill, who should be super prepared for this, fight a bunch of raiders with a bolt-action rifle in the open.
That's what I said too. I was like, why is he just standing there? I'm like, it does not make sense. Like, in my head, right, I'm trying to rationalize it. Like, I'm letting the disbelief, like, suspension of disbelief there in that, like, oh, maybe because he assumes that they can't see him because of the fire or something like that. I was like, God, please give me something that just doesn't mean that he's out in the open, you know?
He's just in the fucking... I thought that was stupid, but, like, it's whatever. I thought Bill was gonna die and Frank was gonna live on. But
Me
then,
too.
like,
I think everyone thought that. Like, everyone's assumption was someone had to die because someone has to meet Joel and Ellie.
Yeah. But then, like, you know, we cut to him being okay after this. Like, not
10 years later.
after.
We get 10 years later.
Oh, yeah, we get 10 years later. And then he's like,
I was like-
okay. And, like, the one that isn't is Frank. And I'm just like... we were debating what the sickness is, me and Ina. It was like, is it AIDS? I was like, no. It's like, if it was AIDS, and Bill would have AIDS.
Fuck. Because he was having mobility issues. I'm pretty sure... Wait,
was it
it might have been
cancer?
me.
He said MRI scan, so I assume it's like something to do with the brain.
I
ASL?
assumed it was ALS.
Okay, ALS.
Yeah, I thought it was ALS because of the mobility issues, but I mean, mobility issues goes on with a lot of chronic illnesses.
Yeah. And it is better. It's better than the game. Even though Bill dies, it's better than the game because we don't want anyone who's going through as hard of a life as anyone is in this apocalypse, who wasn't a bad person. Like, mind you, like, Bill did not like Ellie and Joel, but he still helped.
Yeah.
Which means there's some good to this guy.
They might have just not developed it in the game in a way that, you know, its players and the people watching could really feel. Like, I get that parang like, I should like you, and yet I don't. you know?
I like it undermined the potential of Bill's character, and the show fulfilled it. Like, it's better. If I had to pick, like, are the scenes that are in the game that happened better than the one so far? I would say from episode 1 to 3, nothing has been worse.
Yeah,
like, there's no reason for me to say that, like, you know, the way Sarah died was worse. Actually, episode 1, I think, was the fan service show where they're like,
it was the fan service part of the show.
Way they filmed everything was almost shot for shot.
Yeah.
And I think so far they gave us that so that they could prepare us for a rewrite, which is an enhanced rewrite. So, like, so far, it's just better. It's just better. And everyone who thinks that the game was better is lying to themselves. Because it's not. It's just not.
I think, sorry.
Like, having Frank hate Bill is the worst. Like, that is so fucking mean. And it makes you not like Frank. And, like, here, they're balanced out by each other very beautifully. And I say, again, the most tender kisses I've seen from any couple I've ever seen on movies or TV. Like, it's so beautiful. I didn't cry, mind you. I actually didn't cry. But I think it's only because I've been watching so many drag shows that made me cry that I was dry of tears. But it was just so beautifully done. Like, anyone would shed a tear. Anyone would also say that, like, they deserve Emmys. And also, MTV, if this is not the best kiss winner
MTV kiss.
in the MTV Video Music Awards, then I will boycott the show! Because they deserve it!
So I do have a question. Well, I guess for Nina. Like, when did the waterworks really start, and when did they stop? Was it like during the credits when they stopped?
I mean, it started when they did the past 10-year mark. Because the thing is, right, is that, you know, in having studied some gay media over my time in university, I'm sure I think I've explained to Enzo this, and I think you might have heard the term around on like the internet, whether you're on Twitter or whatever. You know, the idea of the barrier gaze trope, and that it was always end in a gay couple, one or two of them dying. And I literally had to Google like the history of barrier gaze again, if only just to understand like was this falling into that, right? Because they did that in the show, admittedly. I mean, in the game. Sorry, they did that in the game, right? You know, Frank ending up to, you know, offing himself, and you know, had that whole thing where a gay couple can never be happy. And what I through and through enjoyed was that God bless the fact that they changed that, because they gave him a full life. You know, we keep saying like, oh, he died in the end, he died in the end. But the thing is that what really hit for me was he said, I have no purpose here anymore, right? Because we talk about, you know, in the apocalypse, like zombie movies or apocalypse movies, you know, the idea of what keeps you going is always something that is prevalent. Because what is the thing that keeps you going? And more often than not, it's the people you care about. You know, when you lose out on comforts of modern life, when you lose out on the internet, on movies and all those things, what is the thing that connects you and keeps you human, if not other people, right? And to see that so beautifully done in a way that we are not often seeing in media, especially again for gay people, like the LGBT community, it was just so beautifully done. And regardless, it was just like I was okay that they both died, because he was already like, I want to take the initiative of going the way that I want to go. And you know, even Frank says to Bill when he realizes that he's also taken like the pills, like you know, I would be mad, but that's smart of you, you know, or something like that. Like I forget. Enzo was able to recall the line.
Objectively romantic.
Yeah, objectively romantic. Yeah, right. And now, do I think it's kind of a cop out that they had to make them verbally say, you know, this isn't the part where the two people end up committing suicide, blah blah blah? Did I think that was like kind of a cop out? Yes, if only because I was like, you had the subtlety. It was fine. I think we could read into it. You didn't have to defend yourselves.
Yeah.
But like, sorry, go ahead.
I was about to say, like, when the music started playing, I said to myself out loud, like, HBO, you guys are bastards. Like, damn.
How could you do this?
Yeah.
Yeah. But then the fact that they get to both choose the way that they go out, which is not often done for gay people on screen, right? Like, very often the idea of the bury your gays trope comes from somebody either taking their life or being killed at the expense of the straight characters. And that's what I liked. It was this idea of agency. It was the idea that they were able to develop them so well that I didn't have anything to say about them both dying. Did I wish? And the thing is, like, they lived a full life. It's a fair thing to say. They lived a full life. What does Bill have that kept, like, he fucking suffered for like 4 years alone. And then finally he gets, 16 plus years with the man of his dreams in their little bit of, like, their town. I was like, and they're fully, like, what were they gonna do? Go out and fight more zombies? Like, they're not gonna fucking do that. Like, you know, and I like that. It was this idea of agency, and they developed it so well that I have no qualms. Well, I do have qualms in the sense that, like, I was sad. I was crying my eyes out, and I could not stop. And I had to emotionally, the rest of the day, it was terrible. I wish you guys saw me. I was like sitting in bed trying to read webtoons to get over it. By the post episode, I was just like, I'm tired, it's so sad, but I'm happy, but I'm sad.
I would say this is a way better version of the I Had Flowers letter from V for Vendetta.
Oh. Yeah.
You know that one, right?
Yeah.
That was sad as shit. That was the first time I cried over a gay story. Like, holy shit, that was sad. There was nowhere for them to go, and you know, you just kind of are holding on for your sake.
Yeah.
To Bill not being dead.
Yeah.
If Frank has to go, but you know, Frank's like, honestly, I'm good. Like, he's really old too. Like,
yeah, they were really, really old. What the fuck were they gonna do? At least Joel could do shit at his age.
Yeah.
What the fuck were Bill and Frank gonna do?
Because like, if Joel was always younger than Bill, and Joel's about 50, 55?
They were about 70. I had guesstimated.
Yeah. Like, you know, he's good, and I completely get that. but I was probably also seeing things from Frank's point of view.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, it's as good as it gets. Like, they didn't bury the gays. They gave us a full story. I'm just so happy with how the story went. I'm so happy with how it was written. They gave Bill all the justice in the world and gave Frank all that. Well, it's really easy to build from zero. They gave Bill a story.
I mean, I always make the joke, the bar is in hell.
Yeah.
The bar is in hell. Walking over it is like already, like walking across it is already like enough for a lot of people, you know?
Yeah. But again, it's such an unnecessary, like, you could argue this was filler. Like, there is an argument to
People
be made.
People are saying it is filler, yeah. I remember that.
It's technically filler, but do you care? Like, I don't.
I mean, because the thing is, right, if anything, my argument against that is that just because The Last of Us in the game was very heavily reliant on you playing Joel does not mean that the show needs to solely do on that. It's about the fucking name of the show is The Last of Us. You know, it's a different perspective outside of being a smuggler or being someone just trying to survive. It's the story of somebody actually living, you know, beyond just living in surviving in a QZ day to day. These men, and God bless they gave it to the gay people, because what the fuck else do we got? You know, do we have besides, you know, like, they got to have their little slice of heaven. They got to have it better than most people. They had fucking strawberries. The fact that alone in that scene, they seem to enjoy that so much.
Wow.
When they ate strawberries, I was like, "We bug you." No, but like the thing about it is, like, I am speaking of filler purely out of technicality.
Yeah, technical. No, I agree. The technicalities, but that's my argument against that. In that, like, you consider it filler if you were only looking at it from the perspective of Joel Ellie. That's my response to them, what all the homophobes are saying.
I think no, because like, there's a plot. And you know, just speaking from the technical aspects of what the main plot is, it is bring Ellie to place. And for the sole reason that we get maybe 10 minutes of that, it's technically filler. Yes. But it is not filler in the sense that it's like one of those Naruto episodes everyone told you to skip.
A beach episode!
I mean, if this is filler, I prefer to this than what Dave Filoni does, where it's like the Bad Batch. I'm like, why do I like this stupid franchise? It's not a Filoni type of filler, because like when Filoni does fillers, they are filler. Like, it's better off not there. But here it was a filler only in the sense that it doesn't. You get to the point of like, we got a car now. Like,
it was a very extensive backstory to realizing why they now have a car.
Yeah. It's nice. It's just nice.
It's nice, and I think like. You know what? At that point, there's nothing. I think if there's anything else that you guys want to talk about, I feel like I've covered majority of the points that I wanted to talk about with you, in regards to like filler, what it means for the relationship in the grand scheme of things. Like, is there anything else you might have wanted to point out?
I think Pedro also gives one good performance when Ellie's reading the letter and he has to go out and he lets the loss of Tess wash over him. It's like, fuck. And then I told you this, like, when they put on their iconic shirts, I was like,
the shirt.
Yeah, the shirt. I was like, that's what he wears in the show. I mean, the game.
But
that's the same shirt in the game.
But at that point, I'm still drying my eyes out, so I'm like, I don't care. Cool.
Yeah, I remember you told me that yesterday, where you were like, you know what? I don't know if I can care right now because I'm just hurt. And I was like, wow, the one thing that'll make me happy. This episode. But sorry.
The shirt, yes, but also, am I the only one here who's like, oh right, they're reminding us that Warner Brothers owns this because Ellie runs into a Mortal Kombat game?
She does. Yeah, I remember that. I was like, oh, do you know about this? And again, like what this show does so well, beyond just like having like adapting source material, is that it just builds the world so well, and it's so rare for me to see something that isn't fantasy being done so well. Like you understand a lot of the things. Like I remember thinking about this. I don't know if she has said it yet in the show, but Ellie says something like, "Wow, these girls are so skinny," and like Joel would say like, "Oh yeah, because they used to like not eat," and she'd be like, "Why would you say no to eating?" You know, and it's those little like world building moments that just makes it so much more of a rich world. But it's so rare to see that outside of like fantasy genres. You know, like that kind of world building, both hard and soft world building.
We got that a little bit, I think, from her getting really, really enthusiastic about the plane.
Yeah, the plane one where he was like, "It's not really anything," and she was like, "What do you mean? You got to be in the sky."
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's why I love that shit.
I will say though, the only like, this isn't pointing out something from the episode, but this is just me going like, yeah, if you know, you know. Like, Enzo, we haven't even gotten to Sam and Henry yet.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about that.
No, this is so fucked because like this isn't even like in the game. This isn't where it like emotionally peaks.
Yeah.
So we have a lot to look forward to in terms of things that will make us emotionally peak. So like, actually, from this episode specifically, because this is the most rewritten part of Last of Us so far. This actually makes me very enthusiastic about season 2. Because they're making season 2.
Has it been confirmed? I forgot.
Yeah.
I feel
It's
like
confirmed.
I saw it.
It's confirmed.
Okay. Nice.
And we know Enzo's feelings about The Last of Us 2. When he points out things he doesn't like, he usually points out Last of Us 2. But after this rewrite, Enzo, do you have more optimism for season 2?
Oh yeah, I'm willing to accept it with open arms. I'm like, you know what? If you can do things differently, cool.
I think it also depends on even where we end, right? Because I don't even know where we are. Because we don't even know if the jump from season 1 to 2 will just be like the game. You know, I don't know what they're gonna do. But I'm just saying, like, do we have any confirmation that The Last of Us 2 will be the basis already for season 2?
I feel like with how things are moving,
It should be, right?
There's no way it
doesn't.
doesn't end at the end of 1.
Yeah, I mean,
Like, if
I
they're
don't know.
already
I just
here-
that's true.
if they're already here, then the next thing is gonna be Henry. Then the next thing is gonna be Tommy. Like, but from Tommy, it's just a matter of getting to the other Fireflies.
I forgot everything that happened from this point on in the game. So,
But yeah,
Okay. Then like,
yeah. But I mean, I am aware of the Tommy part. I am completely blank on who this person is, on who the Henry is. And I am only aware from that point on that there are fireflies at the end. And that's it. Period.
No,
I know what happens at the end. That's it.
I'm using it as markers only.
Yeah.
Because like, if we're here already, then that means if we get 12 episodes, and this is way too much time for them to be able to get to the end.
Yeah, that's
Of
true. I mean,
the
it
game.
makes sense. I'm just saying, like, I don't know what we have in store. If only because I, coming into episode 3, was like, did not expect the waterworks, did not expect this major change. But I mean, of course, I also in my head was just like, it only makes sense that they'll do the second season to be the second game. But I know nothing about the second game post.
I don't either.
Everything post everything that has been said on the internet. I do not actually know the specifics of that story.
I think.
So no, nothing. Say nothing.
I know. I just think Neil said yes. The foundation is the second game.
Okay. All right.
Foundation.
I mean,
That's a good sign. He's saying we're using it as a foundation. It's like all that shit you hated. like
We'll see what we
bye-bye.
can do about that. Yeah, but I think at this point, if we don't have any closing, well, I think that's a good way to close it. Our hopes for, the future episodes. Last comments and/or violent reactions and/or table flipping and/or happy sad tears.
I just can't wait for the moment when Joel goes, and I hope it's in the next episode where it goes, he ain't even hurt, and you get a really cool action sequence out of those.
Okay. I thought we were gonna go. I thought you were gonna fuck with us and go like, I can't wait for the part where Joel says, "Ellie, don't you understand? We're the last of us." Like, you have no idea how many times I've heard that.
I also told Nina this, like when Joel and Ellie were in the car, I thought they would ruin the tone.
They were gonna do the nudie mags, and I was like, I am aware of that, and God bless they didn't.
Ellie being like, these pages are stuck together, Joel. What does that mean?
Yeah. That's what was very distinct in my mind. I for sure remember that. I did not know where in the first game that happened, but I'm very aware because I was like 13, so I was like, I know what that means. That's bad. So yeah, but like, I think we can end our episode here. I'd like to think we discussed it in, the way that we feel about it. So Enzo, take it away. Tell them where they can find us online.
Yeah, if you want to see more of us on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and ding the bell icon to see to get notified of when we upload next. Facebook to see us react to trailers, stream games, and about our lives from time to time. Spotify to hear us on the go, and we have a new Mosh Pit episode coming up there real soon. TikTok to see our best and funniest moments, and individually you can find me at Gandalfus1995 on Twitter.
Yes. Seb, where can they find you, and tell us about
Well, you can find me on Twitter at Seb the Harmlessist, and Instagram at Seb the Harmlessist. If just places where I be cringe about anime. That's it.
And you can find me at 9_nab on Twitter and Instagram. So I think that's it. Thank you so much to everybody that's tuned in to today's episode. I hope you enjoyed that. Let us know what you think, and we can discuss things in the comments and our Discord as well. So thank you very much for tuning in, and take care. Bye.
Bye.